Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a genuinely bizarre paradox right at the heart of the modern middle class. Look, most families today have two earners. You've got two paychecks coming in, two full-time careers being juggled, and on paper, well, just looking at the raw numbers, we should be twice as rich as our grandparents were back in the 1970s. But I'm willing to bet your day-to-day reality feels like the exact opposite of that. Despite working twice as many hours as a household, families today are infinitely more stressed. They're carrying way more debt, and, crazy as it sounds, they're actually closer to total financial collapse than ever before. It really makes you wonder, right? Are you working twice as hard but feeling completely exhausted and somehow even core? We have to ask the tough question here. What if that second income isn't actually helping you get ahead? What if it's the very thing keeping you trapped? Today, we're diving deep into what economists call the two-income trap. It's this massive systemic shift in our economy that totally rewrote the rules of the game while, honestly, nobody was really paying attention. Okay, let's dive into this. We all have this deeply ingrained expectation that two incomes automatically equal twice the wealth. I mean, it seems like basic math, doesn't it? But the harsh reality is that dual-income families are just drowning in more stress and more debt. We're going to unpack exactly how the system morphed to basically swallow that second paycheck whole, leaving families sprinting on an endless treadmill just to avoid falling behind. Section 1. The Myth of Progress. Let's get into it. To understand exactly how we got here, we've got to look at the historical context, because the very definition of a middle-class foundation shifted right beneath our feet. Let's jump back to the 1970s for a second. For most families back then, one income was the baseline. That single income could buy a house, a reliable car, and provide a totally solid education. And crucially, this is key, if the primary breadwinner lost their job, there was an emergency reserve. The other parent, who was usually at home, could just jump into the workforce to keep the family afloat. It was essentially a built-in insurance policy. But fast forward to our world today, that second income is no longer a luxury or an extra cushion. It is an absolute requirement just to survive. So here's the catch that completely changed everything: the bidding war. See, when everyone moved to two incomes, the cost of the things we actually care about didn't just stay flat. Because stay-at-home parenting declined, everybody started competing for an incredibly limited number of houses in the best neighborhoods with the best schools. Think about it. If your neighbor suddenly has two incomes to bid on a house, well, you need two incomes just to compete with them. The bidding power of the market literally doubled. We didn't actually get richer as a society, we simply inflated the price of entry into the middle class. We're essentially running a race where everyone is sprinting faster and faster just to stay in the exact same spot. Moving on to Section 2, the hidden second income tax. And this brilliantly illustrates the brutal math of the situation. Let's break down this hidden second income tax, because most families completely ignore these numbers when calculating the true value of that extra paycheck. Look, when a second person enters the workforce, you absolutely do not keep 100% of that check. First off, by combining incomes, you hit a higher tax bracket, so the government takes a bigger bite out of every dollar. Then you've got the towering, frankly massive cost of childcare, which for the average family today can easily hit 10 to 15 grand a year per child. For a lot of families, this slice alone eats up 30 to 50% of that second salary. Then add in the commute, gas, insurance, extra car maintenance. And finally, there's convenience spending. When both parents are grinding 40-plus hours a week, you're just too exhausted to cook, clean, or do home repairs. So you end up paying a huge premium for takeout, cleaning services, and pretty much anything that saves you time. And when you subtract all of those hidden lifestyle taxes, you are left with a shockingly small net profit. The math is incredibly harsh. In some cases, people are working a full 40 hours a week, putting up with a bad boss, a terrible commute, and endless office stress, just to bring home a couple hundred extra bucks a month after all those structural costs are paid. It absolutely demands that we ask ourselves, is the trade-off really worth it? Is giving up all of your time, your energy, and your flexibility actually worth such a tiny financial gain? I mean, are we sacrificing our lives for a total illusion of wealth? Section 3. The illusion of security. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it highlights the most dangerous part of the trap. We think having two paychecks makes us safer, right? But relying on two incomes actually destroys your financial safety net. The contrast in financial risk here is just stark. In a one-income household, you've got a 100% safety margin. If the primary earner gets sick, gets laid off, whatever the emergency is, that stay-at-home parent is a massive financial asset that can step right into the labor market. You have a built-in backup plan. But in a two-income household, you have zero margin. Zip. Most dual-income families have adjusted their entire lifestyle to rely on both checks just to break even every single month. The terrifying reality is this: if either one of you loses a job today, the whole house of cards collapses. Because you need both incomes just to cover the basic mortgage or the car payments, you haven't doubled your security at all, you have literally doubled your risk of total financial disaster. Which brings us to Section 4, Surviving the Time Famine. Now, this trap isn't just about dollars and cents. The financial math is only half the story here. We really need to talk about surviving the deep psychological cost of the modern dual-income grind. We call this the time famine. This happens when both adults are fully committed to the labor market, and when this occurs, the home completely transforms. It stops being a sanctuary or a place of rest. It turns into this high-stress logistics center. It's constantly about who is doing drop-off, who's got pickup, and how to frantically get dinner on the table before just collapsing into bed. And obviously this leads to incredibly strained relationships. Stress levels skyrocket, and parents are left feeling this heavy, constant guilt about missing crucial moments with our kids. Basically, as a society, we have fully optimized for GDP, but we have completely de-optimized for human well-being. Sure, we might be richer in stuff. We've got more screens, nicer appliances, much faster cars, but we are desperately poor in the one thing that you can never, ever buy back. And that's our time. Section 5, the One Income Foundation Strategy. So how do we break out of this mess? Should everyone just march into the office tomorrow and quit? Well, no, not necessarily. Let's look at a really empowering, strategic solution that fundamentally restructures your household's approach to money. So the crucial point is that the ultimate goal of the strategy is to restore optionality. It's all about reclaiming your power of choice in a system that basically wants to keep you sprinting on that treadmill forever. Here is exactly how the smartest families are doing it today. They might both still work, but they use a very strict allocation system. They live entirely off the smaller salary. That first income covers survival, the mortgage, the cars, the groceries. They purposefully buy a house they can easily afford on just that one check. They drive cars they can pay for on one check. Then they take that second income, the larger salary, and dedicate 100% of it to building actual wealth. We're talking investments, aggressive debt repayment, and massive savings. Let's move to and see how this builds incredible freedom. Structuring your life this way returns the second income to what it was always meant to be, a powerful tool for building wealth, rather than a desperate requirement just to survive. This gives you the power of optionality. It gives you the power to actually say no to a bad boss or a toxic work environment. It gives you the freedom to take a sabbatical if you're burning out. And most importantly, it gives you the deep, peaceful security of knowing that one sudden layoff isn't going to result in a foreclosure. Section 6, Reclaiming Your Freedom. Look, yes, the two-income trap is a systemic norm. It wasn't built by any single person. It's just the result of how our economy evolved. But listen to me. Just because it's the norm absolutely does not mean you have to follow its rules. This strategy cements a really powerful truth. Real wealth isn't about how much you make. It's about how much of your life you actually own. A truly lasting foundation is built on owning your time, not running this endless, exhausting race just to buy more stuff that you literally don't have the time to enjoy. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought today. Do you feel the time famine in your life right now? Take a hard look at your household budget and your weekly schedule. Are you just running the race, or are you actually building a foundation? If this explainer shifted your perspective, please hit that like button, subscribe for more breakdowns, and let's keep this conversation going in the comments below. Honestly, tell me, how has the time famine impacted you? Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.